Hello and welcome back to another edition of This Surfing Life. Glenn Gordonier here, avid surfer since I was 16 years old, still at it in my mid-70s. But there are millions of others like myself around the world that are impassioned by surfing. There are millions more that are intrigued by it. This series is designed to examine surfing life, what it feels like to ride a wave, the culture of surfing, the dynamics of the ocean. Today I want to talk about surfing culture, one aspect of it at least, but that culture is global. Most people know that surfing was practiced in Polynesia and Hawaii 1,000 years ago, but it was also practiced on the coast of Africa, where generation after generation, just like in Polynesia, created wooden planks on which they could ride waves. The global community now stretches from the high northern latitudes to the high southern latitudes, from near Arctic to near Antarctic waters, with millions of people in between. I'm going to talk about one of those people, someone whose impact is much larger than herself. And she's my friend, Dr. Easkey Britton. Easkey was raised in the town of Rosnala on the west coast of Ireland, and surfing was in her blood. In fact, her grandmother was one of the people to first bring surfboards into Ireland. She was a hotelier and she was a member of the Irish Tourist Board, and as such traveled to the United States decades and decades ago. When they got to Malibu, she was struck by how similar the waves were back at home across from her hotel as they were at Malibu. And so she purchased some surfboards, had them shipped home, and she was going to use them for her hotel guests. Things got a little complicated when the teenage boy who was to become Easkey's father, he and his siblings commandeered those boards and became some of Ireland's first dedicated surfers. And so surfing has been in Easkey's blood. In fact, it moved her even before she was aware of the world around her. And that was because just before delivery, her mother and father drove down to Mulligamore Point. Mully is where giant waves, 25, 30-foot waves, crash into the cliffs and actually shake the earth itself. And so they sat in the car feeling the power of the ocean until eventually her mother said, "It's time," and they drove down and delivered Easkey. So she grew up surfing, and she was a competitor. As a young child, she has fond memories of surf competitions in Rosnala, but for her it was just a time for her mates to get together and have a fun afternoon in the waves. But surfing also helped expand her world even when she was young. At one point, busloads of young children were brought into her hometown, and they were from Chernobyl. They were children suffering from nuclear radiation, and this was a respite for them. And so as a child, Easkey began to understand the impact and the connections that the ocean can make for people. As she joined the Irish surfing team, she became the 5-time women's Irish surfing champion. When she joined the Irish surfing team, they traveled the world, and that only expanded her view of self, ocean, world, and how it all interconnects. And that carried her on to get a PhD in the environment and society. And so she has continued to work in all sorts of ways to connect people with the ocean. There are about a dozen projects she's involved with right now. You can find them on her website. You can look up Easkey Britton quite easily. Two of my favorites, one is titled Like Water. And this is one that she created where she fosters positive relationships with the water and with the sea through immersive learning experiences. Very creative, very connected to the ocean and the world around us. Another project of hers that I thought was just wonderful was when she took surfing to the people of Iran. Many people don't realize that you can surf in Iran. The ocean is there. And so she took surfing to that isolated nation. And the first people to learn to surf in Iran were women. And from there, it's expanded. Of course, if you're in Iran and you're surfing, you wear hijab, you're covered down to your wrists, you're covered to your face, and yet you can still engage in the joy of wave riding and the joy of connecting to the oceans. Easkey Britton took that to the people of Iran, and they've continued to expand it since she's gone on to other projects. So there are many ways the ocean can impact us. There are many ways surfing culture has a positive impact. Dr. Easkey Britton is one example of that, from riding giant waves that gave her, as she would say, a wordless improvised dance between my body and the water, to reaching out to other people all around the world, using surfing as a dynamic to improve their lives and their relationship with the world around them. I hope you found this to be interesting. You can learn about Easkey reading an essay I wrote about her in my book titled Still Surfing Cold Water. You can order that online through Rhode You can also get it through Amazon. But if you want the expanded story, get Easkey's book itself. A book that she wrote about her relationship with the oceans is titled Saltwater in the Blood. You can also get that online. Well, thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you enjoyed learning a little bit about this amazing human being, Dr. Easkey Britton. And I invite you to join me again, subscribe to this, learn more about surfing and the surfing life. In the meantime, keep paddling out.